Hey everybody, this is Mr. May, and we have another screencast for you as students to help you have a better idea of how the retake policy is going to take shape as we get started here in the school year. And so this screencast should help you to understand the process and procedures. Remember, there is information out there about grading philosophies and the reason behind retakes and how you as a student and your parents should be thinking about your grades this year. All of this, if you look at this as our station webpage, if you look under student resources, you're going to see a link to grading policy, and all the information you could ever want and probably a little bit more is sitting out on the website for you to check out. The slideshow that you watched on the first day of school is right here, and it's got audio and everything. If you feel like you need a refresher at any time about how things work, a very thorough presentation is there. And today we're going to be going over a flow chart, which kind of explains the retake itself and how that starts. So, for this presentation, we're going to kind of assume that this all begins with a retake on a test. So we're just going to use a test as an example, but I want to remind you from the presentation that when we're talking about retakes, we're talking about retakes for summative assessments. And summative assessments can be papers, they can be projects, they can be large quizzes, anything that's done at a checkpoint within a unit, and a checkpoint being a time when you should have achieved certain standards. So to simplify things, we're just going to say test in this presentation. So let's say, for example, you got an F on a test. Could happen, hopefully it doesn't happen very frequently, but in the event that you do get an F, the flowchart kind of begins here, and this flowchart's explaining the process. When you get an F on a test and that test is handed back to you, your teacher is also going to encourage you to do what's called an alternate learning plan. The alternate learning plan is right here online, and I'm going to pull it up. You have a link to it on the web page that you can look. You can download this document. And basically, the whole purpose of this alternate learning plan is to help you to get prepared for the second attempt at your test or other assessment. Now, we tried to make this form so that it's not overwhelming because we want you to use it, but we also want it to be meaningful and help to get you to where you need to get. It's going to ask you for some basic information here. It's going to ask for a retake deadline. That's actually going to be set by your classroom teacher. So let's say for argument's sake you failed a science test. Your science teacher will ultimately set this deadline for you. But before that deadline is set and before approval is given, and approval is all at the end of this, you need your signature, your parents' approval, and your teacher's signature before this final deadline is set. Before all of that, though, you need to try to come up with some ideas on how to create a better study plan. In order to do that, we've got some questions about how you prepared the first time. It's important that you're really honest with these things too, because you're not going to get in trouble for having not prepared. It's more important to just be honest and to share with the teacher the truth about how you prepared the first time so that together you can better understand what to do differently the second time. Be honest in reflecting. When did you start preparing? How much time did you put in? And did you believe when you went into the test that you were prepared enough? And why or why not? Those questions are intended to guide you towards some new ideas about studying for the test the second time. Remember, that test isn't going to be the exact same test, but it should be measuring the same things. So your preparation should be directed toward the same learning outcomes and stuff like that. So it'll be maybe a lot like the test you took the first time, but not exactly the same. Now, I mention that because in the past we've been concerned that students might be trying to gain an advantage by doing the retake, by getting a glimpse at the first test and then having a better advantage the second time they did the retake. We're trying to get you all to avoid getting into that mess because what it was doing in past years is getting people a little bit behind. So anyway, remember, it'll be different. On this alternate learning plan, the next thing we want you to do is to review the test itself and figure out the areas in which you struggled. Did you make some silly mistakes? Was it too challenging for you? Was it hard for you to follow the directions? Or did you simply not really know the material? Or are there other reasons maybe we don't know? Maybe you had a super busy week that past week and you need to just have more time available to get prepared because you were busy with other activities and stuff like that. Ultimately, we want to get to this. We want you to detail an action plan. What are you going to do to get ready this time? How is it going to be different? What types of studying techniques are you going to employ? We want you then to be very specific, especially so that your parents and your teacher are on board and understand specifically where and when do you plan to use time in preparing for the second attempt. Okay, it's all nice. It's nice to reflect. It's nice to figure out why you didn't succeed. It's helpful to try to figure out a plan. But until you really manage your time and commit the time to the process and specifically state when and where you're going to actually do the plan, it doesn't really mean anything. And so that's how that summative retake alternate learning plan looks. And in the beginning, what we want you to do is we want you to do this learning plan by yourself, just hopefully so that you can learn how to plan and learn study skills independently. Because the truth and reality is, as you get older, there's not always going to be somebody around to help you through those and to help you plan. So ideally, we would like for students to be able to fill out this alternate learning plan independent with no help from their teachers, getting approval, and then getting your deadline approved. So that's plan A. The plan gets approved. The retake deadline ends up created by the classroom teacher, and the plan needs to be then shared back with parents. However, it's not always going to be that easy. What we really wanted to focus in on is providing support to students whose study skills may be a little bit lacking. And while you're in middle school, it's really important that we figure these things out and help coach you toward better outcomes. If you fill out an alternate learning plan, and the alternate learning plan is not looking like it's going to lead to success on the retake, your teacher might refer you to the plan advisory. Now, each grade level has a plan advisory. In 6th grade, we have Miss Raya. In 7th grade, we have Miss Meckert. And in 8th grade, we have Miss Lorenz. And they have empty advisories right now. So they're available for students to drop in and get help with their alternate learning plans. Again, we're going to call this the plan advisory. In order to go to plan advisory, you're going to need to have a pass from the classroom teacher. And you're going to have to bring your alternate learning plan form, which you had previously tried to fill out yourself, which needs to be modified. So if you take that with you, as well as a pass from your classroom teacher, you can go to the plan advisory. Your teacher can help you figure out where those are. When you go to the plan advisory, Miss Raya, Miss Mecker, or Miss Lorenz is going to help you, giving you advice to understand the mistakes you made on your original assessment. They're going to help walk you through and work with you on your reflection piece to figure out why you didn't succeed as much as you want to do the first time. They're going to discuss your old learning plan with you, and they're going to help you plan a new plan that will be successful. And they're going to talk to you a little bit about study skills that really work for students. Over time, they're going to develop some nice strategies that work for a lot of students, and they'll be a resource for everybody in order to share some ideas with the whole group of students. So that's going to be a really powerful resource for you. You're not going to be doing your retake with the plan advisor. You'll still do your retake with your classroom teacher. And for that reason, you need to then, when you've got an improved plan, you got to take that new plan, which has been endorsed by that plan coach, and propose it back to your classroom teacher. It's possible that even at that point, the plan seems like it's inappropriate according to the classroom teacher, and the classroom teacher might send you back to plan for a few refinements. And that's okay. It's a work in progress, and it's an important process to participate in so that you can really figure out how to be a better student. So if those modifications are needed, you might go back to the plan advisor, and then back to the classroom teacher, and then back to the plan advisor, and ultimately back to the classroom teacher until you finally have a refined plan that your teacher feels is strong. Now, when your teacher, your classroom teacher, determines that your plan does look good and that you have specific times and places to achieve your plan, then they'll sign off on it, and it'll, just like in the beginning, had you done it independently, it'll be shared with parents, and a final deadline will be set. Ultimately, we want to get to this point. Again, this is how the process works. It's going to be a work in progress, and we're going to try to work through these things with you, but we wanted to provide this resource for students so that all students can have access to successful study skills and a better overall experience in achieving your learning standards.